What's up, everybody?
What's up, everybody? How are you doing? What's up, everyone in the chat? Welcome to Daily Gaming News. I am Kaisa.
I am Marrone, and this is the Daily Gaming News channel on Twitch TV. Thank you for joining us for a fun-filled hour of lots of information going on in the gaming industry.
How you doing, Marrone?
I'm doing pretty good. Keeping alive, surviving as best as possible, working hard, and yeah, trying to game some too. Going to be streaming afterwards.
Very nice. Playing Squadrons?
Yes, I am playing Squadrons. A buddy of mine got it, so we're gonna play some together.
Nice. I'm probably gonna be playing Blair Witch. I think I'm just gonna try to finish the game. Just
Yeah.
Get it out of the way, knock it off the list, kind of thing, for better
Yeah.
or for worse.
Are you halfway through it? Where are you at?
I don't know. I'm like 2 hours in, but apparently
Okay.
it's not a super long game, so I think I can kind of power through it.
Yeah, I think you can too. Yeah, and are there other games on the Games Pass that you're thinking about jumping into?
There were some. I forgot which ones, but I think there's like a whole slew of games on there that I'm like, yeah, I do want to play.
I gotta
this.
play
No,
this.
wanna
I gotta play that.
Yeah,
I gotta
yeah.
play that. Yeah, that's cool. I like how you're testing it out, seeing if you like it, and if it fills that need that so many people are saying when they talk about the Games Pass.
Right, it's good stuff. But today we've got a lot of news lined up. We're going to start with the Oculus Quest 2 and how owners are getting banned from their headsets.
Yes, we're also going to be talking about a little bit more with the Oculus Quest 2, as it is official that you cannot play Oculus Go games on the new Quest 2.
We're going to get into a really sad review of Remothered Broken Porcelain, which is a horror game that looked really cool, and also kind of reflect on other games that we were excited for that ended up like not being as great as they seemed.
We're going to talk about the PlayStation 5's Share Factory, as that will feature 4K and HDR support.
We have a lot of Cyberpunk 2077 news. We have 15 more features you need to know, so we're going to unpack that and kind of go through each one.
Can never get enough Cyberpunk. And then we're also going to be talking about how Mediatonic has basically said that they would like to know which Fall Guys levels you love and which ones you hate.
And as always, what's in the mug?
What is in the mug today, everybody?
Cheers.
Cheers to you too. Throw in your guesses. Let us know what you think we're sipping on today. But let's dive right in, as I find this extremely, extremely unfortunate, as Oculus Quest 2 owners are getting banned from using their own headsets that they purchased.
The Oculus Quest 2, the first Oculus headset to require new users to log in with a Facebook account rather than an Oculus account, started shipping out to customers last week. But thanks to that Facebook requirement, it might be weeks until some owners actually get to use one of the best VR headsets, because as Upload VR reported, some Oculus Quest 2 owners are claiming that their Facebook accounts are being disabled before they can actually log in and activate their device.
Oculus announced earlier this August that starting this October, anyone using an Oculus device for the first time will need to log in with a Facebook account, which means that Oculus Quest 2 buyers who don't have a Facebook account either have to create a new one or reactivate old ones in order to actually use their purchase. Now, the problem comes then, and some users are actually getting almost instantaneous suspensions from Facebook when trying to sign up and needing to wait weeks to be able to appeal them.
Last week, Oculus support tweeted out that it is aware of the issue, which prompted numerous reports of difficulty from users. One Reddit user complained that, quote, "I logged into Facebook's website to lock down my profile as I had no intention of using this social media site more than was needed, and within minutes of merging accounts and changing profile settings, my account was banned." On Twitter, another user posted the account denial screen that some are seeing, which says, you can't use Facebook because your account or activity on it didn't follow our community standards. We've already reviewed this decision, and it can't be reversed.
And Oculus support posts asks users seeing this message to send a support ticket to Oculus, but another Quest 2 buyer said that Oculus's response to their ticket simply asked them to refer to Facebook's help center.
Despite the Facebook account suspension message's wording, you can appeal a Facebook ban, but it requires sending the website a picture of your driver's license or some other photographic proof of identity. But the appeals process can be slow thanks to what is likely human review, which means that Quest 2 owners who are facing difficulty may have to wait a while for their device to be anything other than a paperweight.
And the difficulty here is that Facebook has a unique real name policy tied to its accounts, which asks users to register accounts under the name they go by in everyday life. The platform's hopes is that each user will only have one account, which represents who they actually are. And after pressure from the political sphere to crack down on accounts run by bots, the website has only become stricter on who it lets create accounts. So unlike Twitter or Reddit, signing up for Facebook isn't as easy as just linking an email and pressing go.
This poses a problem when the service essentially acts as a key to start up your new $299 device. Facebook Vice President of Augmented and Virtual Reality, Andrew Bosworth, also addressed the issue on his Instagram.
So that individual says that we are working really quickly through those suspension cases and resolving those issues that come up. However, in the meantime, he says that I think people should continue to make sure their Facebook accounts are in good standing before they buy the headset.
I think that this is really funny. I mean, this is a terrible thing that's happened, but a lot of people were worried about getting Facebook accounts for the security risk. It seems like another reason to be concerned is, I guess, if you don't use your Facebook enough, if your Facebook account looks fake, you're just going to be banned, which kind of sucks if you're not really a heavy social media user. It seems like people are being punished if they're not going to like have a bunch of friends on there or really post, and it kind of looks like a spammy account. I've kind of run into something similar where I created a Facebook account and added like 2 people on it, didn't post anything on it, and everyone's like, are you being catfished? Like, is this a fake account? Is someone posing as you? And I'm like, no, it's me. I just don't want to be on this website.
Yeah, that's always really hard too, because specifically with the requirement of a Facebook account and knowing that people have probably done the whole route of deactivating their Facebook account or just never signing up in the first place. And maybe some people are like, I'll still sign up for one, but I don't want them to have my personal information like that.
Right.
It would make sense that this issue should have either been made aware of, or they're actually working very hard to maybe make exceptions with the people who are buying the headsets to specifically access the content that they get through the Quest itself, and just allowing people who are like, hey, fine, they sign up on Facebook and they don't want to provide all of that private information. They did pay for our technology, so they should be accessible to the features that are mandatory by having that account.
Cold Drink says, yeah, I went to reactivate mine after 5 years and they wanted a copy of your license, and you were like, no, thanks. I think it's way too invasive to ask for a copy of your driver's license, especially a site like this, which is known to not be very secure about your data. Also, a lot of people don't have driver's licenses. I feel like to have that be, the form of verification that they need, I think is too invasive and is not very practical either.
Yeah, that's the thing too, is like when you realize that if somebody wants to keep their privacy away from an entity like Facebook, you're basically saying you have to either sign up or you don't get the use of technology. Like that just seems so absurd in terms of like how many other places will allow you to sign up with an email or sign up with some other form of verification that there's like an account associated with this. Of course, you want to like eliminate bots within fake news and all that stuff with regard to Facebook, but Quest and Facebook are technically separate, but now they're becoming one and the same and a requirement. It's a really odd choice to force consumers to do this or else kind of thing.
It is, and it's also like poses a weird thing where a lot of people, especially in games, they want to go by their gamer tag, and I think in some way, especially when it comes to moderation or reporting or illegal activity, sure, on the back end, like maybe that can be tied to your name for those consequences. But if it's just like playing games on the front end, I don't want my full name tied to everything. Does that mean that like all my extended like family is going to be able to see like what games I'm playing? Is that going to come up on their feed? I feel like it's just a lot of integration that I might not necessarily want. I've noticed that with even like playing like League of Legends or Fortnite, sometimes I just want to play a game and like not have anyone know I'm playing a game. Like, this is for me. No one hit me up. No one send me a message.
Yeah.
And I think that having that so hyper connected for the Oculus, isn't good for consumers.
No, and of course the fear of how much information do they have, how much of access do they have to my headset, if they know my name, they know my Facebook account, they know where I live, can they look inside my home? Right. There's all these things to it that they're trying to say, like, I have heard the stance from some of the people at Facebook or even the Oculus Quest like live events that I'll tune in for just to see like on the headset and hear what they're talking about. They'll address like, oh, we want to add these features where if you know somebody on Facebook and they have an Oculus Quest headset, you guys can have a virtual reality chat in the Facebook Messenger, and you're like, oh wow, that's really cool, but oh wow is basically that being downloaded and kept where someone has recorded this entire conversation and hangout session that you would think would be in private, but isn't necessarily in private because we understand Facebook's policies when it comes to our data.
Right. Like, that's a lot of information to just hand over to this company that I think there was there's an article that came out that said that they pretty much feed into like a lot of like alt-right things, or they're kind of okay with letting a lot of fake news spread around, even though they say that they don't, but then their actions don't really follow up to their words. And there's a lot of really shady things going on, and some of these people are just like, I just want to play VR. I just want to have the Oculus Quest
I just want to play VR. Like, oh my God, that's really what it comes down to. You just hit it on the head. Like, I bought this virtual reality headset just to play virtual reality, and you're making me get all these requirements that no other virtual reality headset is doing.
No, and they're doing a terrible job at it, because our next topic is about how you can't play Oculus Go games on the new Oculus Quest 2. So people are just like, I just want to play these games. I want to play Oculus games on my Oculus device. And Oculus is like, no, you can't.
Yeah, stop right there. You're not going to be able to do that. What's up, Guff? Yeah, so some slightly disappointing news is that for those of you who've invested money into a brand new Oculus Quest 2 virtual reality headset, unlike the original Quest, this second generation model doesn't support games from the Oculus Go.
Well, the news isn't entirely unexpected and doesn't detract too much from what is otherwise, a really good piece of hardware. It's a shame that the Oculus Go games and apps are now seem to be consigned to VR history.
So, confirmation about the lack of backwards compatibility arrived from Oculus Consulting CTO John Carmack, who said on Twitter that he, quote-unquote, lost the internal debate over whether or not titles from older headsets should be playable.
For the uninitiated, the Oculus Go went on sale in 2018, the first standalone VR headset, no mobile phone or computer required, that Facebook-owned Oculus put on the market. It was followed by the more powerful Oculus Quest in 2019.
So the end of the road for Oculus Go is fast approaching. It's no longer on sale, and Oculus won't be adding or updating games and apps after the end of this year. So loading it up, so if you do have one, you should load it up with software now.
Bug fixes and security patches will be supplied throughout 2022, so the headset will be safe. Don't know why it wouldn't be safe and usable for a couple of years at least, and it's not going to suddenly turn into a non-functioning brick, but, it is being kind of phased out.
Yeah, and of course, one of the biggest advantages of the Quest models over the Go is that the Quest's track your movement through space. They know when you're walking around and ducking, and not just when you're moving your head from side to side.
That opens up a whole new realm of possibilities for VR developers, so the writing was always on the wall for the first generation of games and apps. Still, it's a pity that the internal debate over these older titles ended up with them being shut out. It seems like the Oculus Go only tracked your head moving side to side versus all the things you can do with the Quest. You can jump, you can duck, you can walk around a bit. And the Go didn't have that, but I feel like it would be easy enough to just put those old titles, on the Oculus Store as maybe even just like cool, like older VR games. Like, I don't know why they just need to get rid of them completely.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like, you can see in the evolution of the technology, the Go to the Quest, you understood what was going on. They had figured one thing out, and then they figured out how to expound upon, what is where a lot of headsets should hopefully be going towards, is its ability to just be wireless and to map the room without needing multiple cameras, but the cameras can be on your headset, which is part of what about the Quest is so, like, amazing, and why people who want it are like, this is, like, no other headset, has this feature. And then you're going to say, like, that you can't have access to these games on this new headset, which they are really trying to push. They stopped with the Rift. That was one thing that they said. They're no longer making the Rift, or will be supporting it at a certain point. And there's going to come a point, too, for users with the OG Quest, like myself and like yourself, Kaisa, where if we don't upgrade, it's going to be a very noticeable kind of like a visual setback and drawback, because the technology itself just isn't where it needs to be, because they're going to be developing so many with the Quest 2's hardware in mind.
Absolutely. I'm going to try to switch over to my webcam's microphone to see if this sounds... I know there might be some more white noise, but maybe at least people can hear me more clearly. Does it sound super terrible on your end, Marrone? What does chat think?
It does sound a little bit, because I can hear everything in the back. I actually wonder something. If you go to your microphone settings, like your audio settings in the Zoom, maybe that'll help you clear up anything there. Specifically, like, I don't know if it's got a automatically adjust volume aspect clicked on it or whatever.
Oh, it does. Oh, is that... Okay, turned off automatically adjust volume. Does that sound a bit better?
So increase your volume to where you want to put it.
Okay, I just maxed it out.
For me, that sounds better.
Oh, wow. Wow, that sounds better. Okay, it was a Zoom thing. Zoom had automatically adjust volume turned on. I guess that feature is worthless and useless. Crystal clear. I'm very glad we cleared that up. Sorry you had to listen to
Zoom was
audio.
controlling your audio like Facebook is controlling Quest 2 users.
It's like trying to do something extra and, like, you know, automatically have like an audio compressor built in, but it just made the whole thing sound just like garbage. And that is what Facebook is doing to Oculus 2. It is turning it into garbage that you can't even use because you're getting your accounts banned because you don't use Facebook.
Yeah, I'm still just, you know, I'm still kind of dumbfounded by a lot of the choices that are being made with the Oculus. I feel like one of the things that we are aware of is, what's up, Charmer? The addition of this, like, Oasis from Ready Player One. There's a Facebook VR world coming out that's supposed to be this whole, like, you put on your headset, you go into this world, and it's a whole nother life in virtual reality, very much like Oasis from Ready Player One. And so I think that they're just trying to get to that place where that's what their selling point is for their headset, and that they want the users' information that are on there, all of that stuff that we know is our privacy. But for whatever reason, if you're going to be in this new world, living this new life, they want to be able to connect a trail of some sort to anybody who may be harassing or whatever. Of course, there's another side to that we talk about, but that could be one of the elements that they are really trying to, like, cover this up with. Like, hey, we have to make these decisions, we have to do all this stuff, like, no longer support the Oculus Go and no longer, you know, support having just an Oculus account, because I think they're really going to focus heavy on this, like, virtual reality world that they are getting ready to launch.
That's what it seems like. I hope they can find a better approach, or you know, market Oculus as more of a standalone entity from Facebook instead of being so horribly tied to it. Because if they are trying to go into this, you know, whole VR world, have a whole VR space, you know, and have people's identity, you know, tied to that, I think that, you know, doing it with the current horrible press that they've been receiving, I don't think is a good move.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. We'll keep our eye on it and see. As someone who knows that my Oculus account runs up at the end of 2021 and I'll be mandatory to jump to Facebook, like we've said before, the virtual reality market is open for a headset to do what the Quest does and not require the whole Facebook integration. So whoever's out there working on that, please get that out soon, please.
Please get that out soon. We definitely need that. I don't want to have to use my, you know, Facebook to log in. If anyone sees my Facebook account, do not add me. I will not accept your request. I am not using that account. I use it as little as possible. But our next topic is about IGN's review of Remothered Broken Porcelain, which I think we showed this trailer months and months ago, and chat was like, oh, this looks really cool. But apparently the game kind of sucks.
Yeah, I think we did too as well. And this was also a game that you were happy about, right? You were excited
really
to play. You're a horror game connoisseur.
Yes.
And this was, you were ready for it. And then once you saw the reviews, you were like, how many times is this going to happen? Are we going to see an amazing trailer, some cool gameplay? And then the reviews come out and you're like, wow, I'm glad I didn't spend any money on that.
So sad. This has happened with Agony. This happened with Call of Cthulhu. These were games I was really excited for. Articles were like, horror game of the year. And they came out and it was like buggy and the story didn't make sense. It was just like kind of weird. And I was just like, so disappointing to be a horror fan. I feel like with horror games and horror movies, they're just so often a letdown. It's really tough. Any horror fans out there, I feel for you. So as a follow-up to 2018's enjoyable stealth-based survival horror game Remothered Tormented Fathers, Remothered Broken Porcelain is both a sequel and a prequel, but that's a really polite way of saying that no one could make out the chronology of its plot. And this IGN reviewer is not convinced that the creators could either. Perhaps they were too distracted by the audio dropouts that happen all the time, freezes, broken controller inputs, and baffling enemy behaviors to really be able to concentrate on straightening out the tangled threads of its non-linear narrative. Nothing else, Remothered Broken Porcelain is aptly named. This IGN reviewer says it's like a shattered vase that lacks structure. Each individual part is rough around the edges, and it's not really worth the effort to try and piece them all back together.
So, this reviewer continues on. At the very least, the setting is an appropriately haunting one. Ashman Inn is an antiquated hotel situated in a secluded snowy mountain region highly reminiscent of Stephen King's The Shining. And certainly during its opening moments, the reviewer enjoyed the eerie ambience of its dimly lit hallways. Controlling the young protagonist Jennifer indulged in a deadly game of hide and seek with the murderous, mind-controlled hotel maid Andrea, seemingly modeled on Annie from Stephen King's Misery.
That enjoyment was about as short-lived as Stephen King's career as a film director, says this reviewer, because Remothered Broken Porcelain simply can't sustain the same level of cat and mouse tension that the original game could. This is largely due to Jennifer's movement speed, which is positively glacial in comparison to the swift gait of each enemy stalker. By the time you've slowly crouch-walked your way up behind one, they've already read a book, made a sandwich, and turned around and spotted you before the stealth attack prompt has managed to materialize over their head.
Since attacking enemies from behind is the sole combat option for the most part, once detected, the only course of action is to flee and hide until they're no longer on high alert. Now, this can also be problematic, and that is seen by the many times that the reviewer hopped into a locker and the open locker button prompt failed to appear, resulting in them frantically shuffling back and forth trying to find it before copping the wrong end of a pair of sewing scissors in the jugular. Now, the supernatural sensitivity of the enemy AI versus your own sluggishness and unreliable inputs doesn't make for a fun stealth experience. It's just a frustrating one that made each area of Remothered Broken Porcelain a chore to complete.
Outside of these cumbersome enemy encounters, there's surprisingly little else to do in Remothered Broken Porcelain. There are significantly fewer environmental puzzles to solve than there were in the first game, with only the occasional cracking of a safe combination to demand much in the way of lateral thought. Instead, this game places an emphasis on Jennifer's ability to temporarily teleport her consciousness into a moth and fly up to out-of-reach items, or in one instance, agitate a guard dog enough for you to slip by.
There's an interesting concept that you have with that, but there's no real scope for employing it outside of very specific story junctures. And when you do get to use it, it's like trying to pilot a remote-controlled drone through a room submerged in honey, because the moth's movements are seriously listless, and it has a tendency to get stuck on parts of the environment. And since it can only be used in short bursts, it was often found switching from moth form to getting stuck in a wall on the way to the target, being beamed back to Jennifer, and then forced to wait for a cooldown timer to recharge before that process could be started over again.
The moth ability might not be much fun to use, but at least it's one bug that's actually been included on purpose. Elsewhere, there are far too many game-breaking glitches to count. Aside from the aforementioned button prompts failing to appear when you're trying to hide, there's dialogue and ambient audio cutting in and out, characters getting stuck in scenery, game crashes, enemy stalkers pinning you between their body and the environment, confusing camera quirks, and even more.
So it took the reviewer 10 hours to complete the playthrough of Remothered Broken Porcelain. Now, they do estimate that at least a couple of those hours were a direct result of failing objectives due to glitches and retreating stretches after forced restarts. Now, to developers Storm Mind Games' credit, there's always been an effort to rectify many of these flaws, because at the time of writing this, which was about 48 hours after launch, there have been already 3 patches deployed for Remothered Broken Porcelain's PC version.
However, while fixing technical issues is of course appreciated, it's going to take nothing less than a significant overhaul to smooth out the garbled story. The plot jarringly shunts forwards and backwards in time while being only loosely connected by cutscenes that end far too abruptly. The only shining light as far as the story is concerned are the handful of playable flashbacks that center around the main character Jennifer and her best friend Lynn. They're easily the most well-written exchanges in the entire ordeal and are set prior to the madness descending on the residents of Ashman Inn, meaning they're mercifully devoid of any sloppy combat sections.
So this reviewer's verdict was this: Remothered Broken Porcelain feels so incomplete that they were surprised they were able to manage to complete it at all. While Ashman Inn is rich with suitably menacing horror movie-inspired interiors to explore, the actual encounters with its inhabitants are frustratingly clumsy, and Jennifer's moth ability is a poor substitute for the more cerebral puzzle-solving of 2018's Tormented Fathers. Add in a slipshod story structure and a raft of technical issues, and Broken Porcelain is ultimately a hugely disappointing sequel.
It seems like the best thing that came out of this game is this review. I looked up the author. They're Tristan Ogilvy from IGN. Their about page says, quote, "I was born from an egg on a mountaintop." I feel like I just need more reviews and more articles from this writer, because that was more, and reading that was more entertaining than I think the game is.
Yeah, I always feel like when a game has stealth mechanics, the biggest downfall is whether or not it executes the stealth mechanics. And that is simply because when you make that your way of combat and it isn't fluid and doesn't feel like a stealth mechanic you would see in other games that have done it notoriously well, like the Dishonored series, or just take a look at games like Splinter Cell and Metal Gear Solid, you're going to have people very frustrated with playing the game, because if it is your only means of fighting back, why wouldn't it be the hyper-focus of development that this is smooth and works?
Right, if it's your one method of combat, shouldn't it work? Like, they don't have, like, a bunch of different things to work with. Just, like, have the game work, have the main thing work. I think this is so frustrating, just, thinking of other horror game or other botched horror games that I've played, because if you can't advance the plot because you, like, glitched out wrong and you have to redo a whole section of the game again, at least I'm likely to just be like, screw this, I'm not going to finish this game, which happened to me in Agony. I was stuck. I was, like, glitched into a certain part. If I tried to restart or respawn, I was stuck in that part, and so I was like, I either have to restart this game or just give up, and so I just gave up.
Oh my god! Wow, are you serious?
Yeah, it was bad.
That's crazy. I can't imagine that.
Yeah. Apparently they've tried to fix the game, and there's like a second version that came out because they realized it was so buggy, but I'm like, I don't know if I trust this. I really don't.
Wow. Does anybody else have, anybody else in chat have an experience with a horror game like this? I mean, I don't play them enough to be able to say, like, I've seen this happen before, but I've heard of this, like, where a lot of people have a really good mechanic in their horror game, and that's why people like it. If like there's a game out there that does really well with the jump scares, but overall it's maybe not that good of a game, people are like, this is a fun one to play for this simple, aspect of it.
Right.
Where games like, Resident Evil, Biohazard just kills it across the board because, you obviously have these developers who've been doing it for a long time. I wonder if there is almost like, there's too much of a risk if your team's not big enough to do some of these horror games, because why put in all that time and effort and leave a bad taste in consumers' mouths? Because when you create another game, they're going to be like, I don't know if I want to jump back into what these folks are developing.
It seems like I'm honestly kind of surprised a lot of people don't really consider BioShock to be a horror game, because I think that's one of the, I thought BioShock was really scary. I thought it was really creepy.
It is, yeah. I get what you're coming from.
A lot of people don't consider it a horror game, but I don't know if it's just because, like, the BioShock team was so focused on, the whole story and everything happened in the game, instead of just being like, we want to create this one game based on this H.P. Lovecraft thing, and we just want, like, the environment to look cool and, like, not actually have any of the, the game in there. Or I don't know why. Maybe these teams are too small. Maybe they're too inexperienced, or maybe the timeline is too rushed, because I've just, like, seen this happen so often. The Call of Cthulhu game was, like, overall interesting, but it's like, for, like, if you want to play that game, you might as well just play Outlast.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. I think a lot of developers should take that into consideration is like what makes their game different than the game that it feels it's like in a comparison to. You know, I'll give a direct example. These are big studios, and the only reason I give that as an example is the one that first comes to mind is like Saints Row versus Grand Theft Auto, right?
Right.
You know what you're getting into in terms of the open world, modern type experience. One is more cartoonish, while the other seems more reality based. So that's kind of how you know, like, what are you getting in the difference? Whereas, like, if you say, hey, I've got this really cool horror game, and then someone's like, man, it just sounds like Outlast. I'll just play Outlast. What is it about your game that is truly, you know, bringing them in and changing their thoughts and, you know, opinion when they put your game down and, you know, walk away and tell others about it? Because word of mouth will destroy a game very quickly or make it successful.
Right. And like thinking about this moth ability of how you can turn into a moth, that kind of reminds me of in Black Myth Wukong, where you can become like cicada. Yeah. And it looks really cool and fun in that game, but in this it just seems like you're operating like a remote controlled, you know, like a helicopter or something like that. And it's just so interesting to see the exact same mechanic be so horribly done in one game and so fun and cool in another.
That's very true. That's unfortunate. Hopefully more horror games will, if they gotta, you know, leave it in the oven a little bit to bake longer, do it. It's okay. I think we've learned, especially with the hype of something we'll be talking about here in a little bit with Cyberpunk, like maybe you need to just take longer before you release a game in order to have that the first review isn't this. You know, it's not a year from now, hey, enough updates have made this game playable. People have already forgotten it and moved on.
Right, because to have 3 patches in the first 48 hours of the game being launched, you might as well just delay the game 48 hours and just, you know, include those fixes in it. This is so unfortunate. I don't know what's going to happen to that game. GG. Yeah, GG. And GG to Kai Almighty for the guest of Black Coffee for Marrone's mug today. Cheers to you, Kai. Good job there. It wasn't the, I'm going to guess every other flavor but of sparkling water other than watermelon like it was yesterday. Great work. So our next topic is about the PS5 and how the PS5 Share Factory will feature 4K and HDR support.
Okay, so this is pretty awesome because for those of you that like creating montages, showcasing gameplay clips of the games that you own, you will be glad to know that the Share Factory will once again be a part of the PlayStation 5, and not only that, it's gonna have some new features as well.
If you go to the newly updated PlayStation Store, you can see that the Share Factory Studio is listed for the PS5. Checking the app itself, you'll see that it now mentions how 4K resolution and HDR, which is high dynamic range, support is also confirmed as well.
And this is what their post said on the PlayStation website. It said, build your legacy. Share Factory Studio is back and better than ever with brand new features to help you personalize and share your best gaming moments.
It reads, Share Factory Studio on PS5 now includes 4K HDR support to create and edit professional-looking videos right on your console. Add stickers, text, sound effects, filters, camera effects, and more to create dazzling videos and share to YouTube, Twitter, or directly to your friends in GameBase.
And using the photo editor to customize and share your screenshots, as well as create your own unique memes.
Now you'll be able to share your gameplay in all its 4K resolution glory.
And in other PlayStation news, this was recently confirmed as well, that the PlayStation 5 Fan will be updated over time thanks to firmware updates, as well as obtaining certain trophies in games will now net the gamer digital rewards.
Sounds like the Share Factory Studio is almost kind of like TikTok in that there's like a whole built-in editor. You know, it seems like you can add effects, filters, text over it to kind of create your own video moment in a shareable way that you can just easily export, you know, to whatever platform you want to.
And one of the biggest setbacks of current SharePlay's usage is the hardware is just old. So it takes a little bit longer to get through those edits and to make it, you know, really work for you. Before I jumped over to PC Rocket League, this is how I was getting a lot of my Rocket League clips and montages was through Share Factory. If they're going to say that this thing's going to be sped up, because what did we see with the UI with just loading a game? It was instantaneous. I think they have something here that's really good for the content creators that are going to be playing primarily on the next-gen console, that is the PlayStation 5, and they want to just be saving clips, uploading them, editing them right there on the console, and then sending them on. And that is something that I think is going to do very well for them if if that PlayStation Share Factory user interface has actually updated to be more efficient.
I was kind of surprised that some like older technology doesn't work with a lot of these like TikTok editors or shareable things. Like I have an iPhone 7 Plus, and I was like, I don't need to upgrade my phone. I don't need a new phone. This is all I need. But I was editing a Likey, which is a TikTok clone app, and my phone like couldn't really handle it.
Oh,
like
wow.
I had enough memory on my phone to be able to record, but like the playback was really choppy. It glitched out. It just like was kind of having a hard time with that software, which I was surprised because I thought it was new enough. But maybe we have seen that you do oftentimes need the latest hardware in order to keep up with some of this software, especially if it's going to be as demanding as what it seems like the Share Factory Studio has. So I'm glad that they're including that. I hope this is used a lot. I feel like it's a really easy way and a really fun way to make everything shareable. Not that anyone needs to share everything on social media all the time, but if you want to, it's very easy.
Yeah, and that's just it too, is like with looking at the Share Factory features and recognizing the 4K support. That's big for content creators, that your footage looks great. The HDR is also another aspect. Like if I've got that enabled and I'm using it, I want to be able to show that off. What a lot of people kind of suffer from is the how many steps do I have to take to get to the end result of what it is I'm trying to share, right? One of the things that does very well with TikTok is its editor is pretty easy to use once you learn how to use it, and you can get those videos out, and no wonder so many people can do very well with that. If they have found a way with the Share Factory to kind of emulate that experience, then what PlayStation is offering you as a gamer isn't just, hey, here are just some clips from my gameplay, but here's an entire presentation with editing techniques and music and transitions and all these things that were done solely on the PlayStation 5. So when I upload it, I could just show it to you right there. I don't have to take it into another editing app. I don't have to go through another whole exporting process. I don't have to make sure it's going to work. I believe that they're going to be exporting these videos at formats that'll instantly YouTube, instantly Twitter, instantly Instagram, all that stuff that you, the user, I just want to hit these buttons. I want to get my montage or my clips the way it looks. I want to add the filter that I want to add, and I just want it to be ready to share.
Right. I think now if I wanted to, have a clip on PS4, I would probably, have to have like my Elgato capture card hooked up. I'd have to be, screen recording whatever game I'm playing, and then once I'm done recording, I'd have to, open a video editor, import that content, clip it, and then export it. Like that's a lot of steps and a lot of technology needed. You need to buy the video editing software, you need to buy the capture card, in order to be able to do all that versus just being able to share right from your PlayStation. I wonder if a lot of people are going to be streaming from the PS5, because I know you can stream from the PS4, and a lot of streamers do it, but it's not super popular because it's not as high quality or streamlined or as good. But I think that there's a big opportunity there too.
I do too, and that's something we haven't heard yet. We know that it's going to be possible with the PlayStation 5, and if Sony's slowly rolling out this information, which is a little annoying with the launch date being right around the corner.
Right.
I feel like now learning about here's what you can do on your PlayStation 5 with editing content and how our Share Factory is going to come back onto it with a new updated UI and experience. What does that mean for the streaming aspect of your system? When are we going to learn about that? Because if what you're saying gets applied in their console, for example, like you can set up your stream like you could from your PC, where how you want it to look, that in and of itself would have another huge moment for those streamers to take their clips from streaming on the PlayStation 5, throw it into Share Factory, upload it to their YouTube, and now you've already just taken all the steps that normally take 3 to 4 hours to complete depending on your workflow.
Yes.
It's all being handled from the console itself, and you've got your videos and your content up on YouTube, and you can go about your day and keep gaming.
It makes a big difference for anyone in the chat who's uploaded anything to YouTube or, has considered making content. There's a big difference between being like, yeah, let me just throw this clip up on YouTube versus actually doing it takes a really long time, which kind of sucks. And it's really why like a lot of these YouTubers you see that have, videos out, every other day. So that's a full-time job. The amount of recording and editing and uploading and just waiting around for videos to render that you have to do. So anything to make that, process better, I think is also better for these companies
Yes.
because if there's more content out, that's more free publicity, for Ghost of
Yes.
Tsushima or for Cyberpunk or whatever game people are going to be playing. That's better marketing for them. That's, putting the PlayStation, name on it, because I'm sure somewhere in the clip it's going to be like made with Share Factory,
course,
or
yeah.
like it's a Share Factory video. It's just going to be better for these companies to make a better product.
So I'm excited to use this feature. I liked Share Factory with the PlayStation 4 initially. I saw its setbacks with the hardware at the time, but knowing what's under the hood with the PlayStation 5 and knowing what should be happening in terms of expediting of speed using software like this is really exciting. And you mentioned a game that we're about to talk about right now, because when you got your PlayStation 5 and you're playing Cyberpunk 2077 uploading to Share Factory, let's pull it back a little bit and talk about some new details that have come out about Cyberpunk 2077, specifically 15 details.
So continuing to look into CD Projekt Red's highly anticipated Cyberpunk 2077, we're going to cover stats, customization, weapons, activities, and other things you should know before buying. So without further ado, let's get right into it.
So talking about stats, when you are customizing your character, you are going to have 5 core stats to assign points to. These 5 core stats are body, intelligence, reflexive, technical, and cool. Now, body seems indicative of one's strength and constitution, and it's possibly also the damage you deal with melee weapons. Intelligence determines your ability to notice things and use methods like hacking. Reflexive governs your dexterity and more of those athletic skills. Technical is about the hardware and allows for repairing different kinds of technology. And then there's cool, which just seems akin to charisma, but can also help in sneaking and dealing critical attacks.
I love cool, this cool stat. It's just like, general cool. Like you can be cool and smart, or a little cool and technical. You can customize this according to yourself. I like that there are these stats in here. I really like that, like in Fallout New Vegas as well, how you have to, pick and choose what you really want, into how you're going to be able to play this game.
There is also something to take a look at here with the whole tabletop experience. These are the details you get in any tabletop experience. So where is it in the game? Because we've talked about this a lot, and when you hear these stats and you're like, oh wow, this is going to be awesome. How do I create my V? How do I get through the world of Night City in this experience? You jump over to the next experience, and maybe you have a highly intelligent character who's not so cool. What storylines does that open up? What if you just have a purely cool character who's just terrible at everything else, but for whatever reason, you're just like, man, you're awesome. You get everything that you want. There's so many aspects to the game that I think are going to even affect dialogue, as well as how stories play out that you interact with. This is really exciting to see that they already have this D&D tabletop experience very much on the forefront once you start the game.
That's so true. I can already see situations where maybe like your body isn't strong enough to get in a fight, so you have to maybe like slick talk your way out of it, or you're gonna have to like lockpick like a back door or something so you can bounce instead. And I think that adds so many different layers to how you can play the game, and it's kind of like inherently built in. Your story is going to be different from someone else's, even if you do happen to do the exact same things.
100%.
So the next thing we're going to get into is the skills tree and perks. Different stats affect various pathways in the skill tree. For instance, investing in reflexes will allow for skills associated with handguns, rifles, and blades, while cool affects skills associated with assassination, nerve, and sniper rifles. Skills will improve as you use them more, but can't go beyond the total number of points allocated to a specific stat. Leveling up allows for adding more stat points, though whether it's 1 or more for every level is still unknown.
And these perks are arguably the most interesting aspect of the system, because perk points are provided by leveling up and can provide benefits like reduced damage by 20% while blocking, increase your max HP, looting scraps from drones and robots, removing weapons mods, and much more. Now, perks fall into different categories like crafting, athletic, and engineering, and to access the more advanced versions of certain perks, you're going to need their base versions. So you can become a jack of all trades, which would be easy, but there's plenty of reason to master specific areas.
I like how there's a way to play into your different playstyle with like what weapons you're going to be able to use like already. I feel like there's so many options in this game. I love how you can kind of like min-max whatever play style you're going to have.
Yeah.
As a note to anyone trying to backseat game when I play this game, you can't, because I've got my own play style and my own stats that are going to be different from yours.
So when you're in the back seat, just watch and comment on what you like. Now, something else to add to this is after we showed and we covered the vehicles and clothing one that came out recently, the Night City Wire. They talked about, and I think it's tied directly to this. I'm pretty sure it's tied directly to this. You can't steal certain cars without upgrading certain aspects of these skill trees and perks. So there are some vehicles out there that you may want, but you're going to need to work at increasing those stats if you want to be someone who can go and steal those cars.
You're not going to be able to just do whatever you want in Night City. You're going to have to make sure you have the right perks for it. You're going to have to make sure you have the right skill points, in that tree. Also, another feature we're going to get into is cyberware. So certain perks are also conferred by cyberware, which is its own delightful little playground of customization. V has several different areas for equipping cyberware, from the brain and eyes to the skin, immune system, and skeleton. Wow. Cyberware has different rarity tiers, which can affect how many slots they require, and each area has a set number of available slots. They can range from the aforementioned nanowire for attacking enemies and hacking them to bits, synth lungs for improved endurance regeneration, mantis blades that are large blades protruding from V's forearms, and much more.
Wow. Oh my God. That's another layer on top of these previously mentioned layers, right, which totally dictates how your game plays and how in which your V interacts with this world. The cyberware has these different rarity tiers. If you focus on cyberware, and that's where you start to spend, a lot of that time min-maxing at what do you lose out on but gain. I've seen the blades, like they've showed the blades coming out of the forearms in old gameplay footage. So it could be one of those things where you're like, I really want that. But at the same time, you're like, but I also want this nano wire that I have seen in gameplay as well, where you throw out the wire from your arm and now you've hacked the person who's been your target.
I think that this is so cool, and I love how there's also, only a set number of slots, so it's kind of like you can't just completely deck yourself out too much and become OP. Like, you've got to kind of pick and choose what you really want here, but I love to see, this body modification, and I love how it's just so comprehensive. You can edit your skin, you can edit your eyes, and your immune system.
Your immune system? What does that mean? What do you mean, my immune system? What do you mean? Tell me more. So the other feature we're going to talk about that they've come out and addressed is something called the Cyber Deck. Because if you choose the hacker life, then upgrading your Cyber Deck and installing software called daemons can provide for some very interesting combat alternatives. Using these makes it possible to short circuit or overheat an enemy's cyberware. You can deal electrical or thermal damage. You can glitch a weapon to force an enemy to switch. You can send out an SOS signal that will lure an enemy away, and can even partially blind a target by resetting their optics.
I love this because I think this is, realistic in this world where people do have all these tech body modifications. Those can go wrong. Those can be hacked. Those can be messed up. So I love how this is such a core part of the game as well, that, you can be able to kind of subvert all the ways that they've tried to get an advantage over you.
I can't wait to see someone play through a level that I myself play through, and maybe they use their cyberware the whole time to get through that experience. And then in my playthrough, I've just meleeed combat all the way through because I've created this brute. And how does that game behave? What storylines come out from that? What else does it branch from? What do you unlock when you get into certain areas and, you need this cyber deck to be fully, decked out in order to be able to access some of these hidden elements within the story that are locked unless your cyber deck's ready for it.
Right, you've got to make sure, if you want to become a hacker, you're all set up. You didn't choose the hacker life. The hacker life chose you, Waffle. This next part I'm personally really excited for is about clothing and how V will be able to adorn all kinds of fashions in Night City, but what you wear can also affect gameplay. There are several different slots for armor, shirt, jacket, pants, shoes, and 2 accessory slots, along with slots that could be for headwear, that can provide resistance to physical, thermal, and chemical and electrical damage depending on the item. Clothing can also be modded, providing benefits like armor for sneakers, and can let you maintain a certain look without sacrificing functionality.
Yeah.
Street cred gains are reserved for mods or an inherent part of clothing remains to be seen. If I had to guess, I'm sure there's some element with the gangs, and if you wear maybe a certain gang style in that gang region, I hope that maybe that'll open up some dialogue options, or at least I'd hope so.
Yeah, that's a really cool observation right there. And knowing that you have all these different slots, knowing that your clothing can be different types of armor to help you out, maybe you have some sort of awareness of what you're getting yourself into for this mission that you've got coming up, and you need to make sure that you've slotted in and out the right armor types in order to be better prepared for that. Again, another thing that you experience if you play D&D or you play any TTRPGs, you know that there is a preparation you should be putting in for the encounter you're about to have by doing the right kind of research and learning, from the world around you. Because sometimes you can go into these environments and you're just not actually prepared for it, whereas you could have been had you done this little extra work.
Right, and by saying you don't have to sacrifice the functionality for maintaining a certain look, I hope that means that maybe you can equip an item but have the look of another item that you maybe previously have. I know for Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I loved that. I was like, I only want Cassandra to wear this one outfit. I'm going to switch out all the armor, but this is the look I want for her. Versus like playing The Witcher 3 right now and watching other streamers play The Witcher. All of us are like, I'm wearing a weird outfit right now, but it was the highest armor I could have, so don't make fun of me. It's like a thing that keeps coming up. Gamers do want to be able to, have at least an okay look with the right armor that they want.
Absolutely. And the next one that they do talk about is combat, which is that combat in Cyberpunk 2077 can either be melee-based with swords, fisticuffs, and nanowire, or ranged, which relies on a variety of firearms. Now, despite the first-person perspective, combat is inherently RPG-based. So guns have damage numbers, and it is possible to inflict different kinds of damage with them. And in terms of movement, it's also possible to run, slide, double jump, and take cover to evade danger.
I think it's interesting that you can double jump, because I feel like usually that's like more fantasy-ish. Yeah. I don't know how it comes across.
It's got to be like a mod to your legs. You got to go somewhere and get that black market mod, I'm guessing.
Right? You maybe have like boosters on your shoes or something like that.
Can you imagine if you hear it?
Jump.
Like if you could hear like you jump and then you hear psh, and you're like, oh, I just double jumped. It's awesome.
Double jump. Got to double jump IRL.
Yeah.
Kind of tying within that is the weapons and customization. So Night City is armed to the teeth with sniper rifles, handguns, machine guns, rocket launchers, swords, and so on. I didn't realize there were swords in this game. Okay. So guns fall into 3 categories: power, tech, and smart. Power weapons allow for ricocheting bullets and firing slugs. Tech weapons rely on magnetic technology for firing through any obstacles like walls. Smart weapons will fire bullets that track, which lets you hit enemies behind cover. Among the melee weapons are thermal katanas, which look cool if nothing else.
And weapons have different variants, so it's possible you can find a smart shotgun that can target several opponents at once with a single shot. And weapons can also be customized, whether it's changing the scope or attaching a silencer to modifying the damage type and fire rate. They also have different rarities, with legendary, of course, being the best. And you'll find these by either exploring the city or killing a specific NPC, but the unique traits that they pack may truly be worth the trouble.
Thank you so much, Blind, for the 2-month resub.
Hey,
thank you
thank
also
you,
for
Blind.
the bits. Thank you so much. I wonder, I want to be able to kill and steal in this game, but I feel like once I actually get into games, I'm like, oh, I don't think I can kill this person. I don't think I can steal from this person. I don't know, but I feel like this game really is inviting that.
It is, and I love how they, are telling you that there is a potential consequence for that choice. You may want that weapon and you want that perk, but you lose that NPC. What's the butterfly effect of that? Where does that go in the future of your story? How does that shape the relationships that you have? Is the person just better being an NPC and not being non-existent,
Right, which leads us into our next feature, which is non-lethal options. Because for all the different ways that you can murder people, I guess this might be kind of a spoiler. So this note is, it's possible to complete the entire game without killing anyone. It won't be easy, though. As Quest designer Philip Weber revealed to GameSpot back last September, the thing is, Night City isn't a very peaceful place, so you can never play like a full pacifist who's never engaging in any kind of combat because people will attack you sometimes. But you can choose to not kill them. Like in real life, sometimes if there's attacks, you don't immediately kill everyone, so you can solve situations in different ways. So even if it's knocking someone out or talking them through a situation, there should technically be a way.
Wow, that's awesome. That is so cool to hear. I am curious whose first outing in this game is the no-kill playthrough. I ain't killing nobody. Come watch it. I'm going to make it happen, because I think one of the things about this game that is immediately inviting is what are the various ways you will take on your attackers? How and which will you, destroy them all? Right here in watching the gameplay, are you going to be throwing grenades? Are you going to be going with weapons? Are you going to be going melee? The pacifist approach is going to be one that I think is going to be really hard, but I do know there are people out there that do love that type of challenge.
Right, I think it's probably going to up your game difficulty if you're going to play through this whole game as a pacifist. That probably means you're not going to be able to have as cool body mods, or you're not going to be able to have the coolest cars, or maybe the fanciest weapons, but you will be a pacifist and you will not have, killed anyone in Night City.
And another thing that they talked about here is destructible environments, because there is going to be quite an emphasis on destructible environments according to the developer. And this ranges from broken glass that can be destroyed, which can put you or an enemy at disadvantage. Bullets will also leave decals, and there are very interesting environmental interactions as well, like shooting a water pipe and water emitting from the exact same place. So we are curious to see how this all plays into combat. So think about it. Do you shoot a water pipe over enemies and you short circuit their cyberware to increase electrical damage being dealt?
I feel like this is such a cool feature. I wonder how much can be destroyed or not. I think it just adds so much more flair and fun, especially in fights. If you see things being broken in the store, or shells being knocked over, I feel like it just makes it way more hype.
100%. And I know we're getting to the end of the hour, so we might have to just finish on this last one and then carry over more Cyberpunk talk, because I love talking about this game, into tomorrow's episode.
So the last bit of Cyberpunk news is that there will be no bullet sponge enemies. Any game with RPG elements is liable to suffer from spongy enemies, which are foes that can take heaps of damage before dying. But CD Projekt Red is looking to solve this issue in a number of ways. First up, there are different kinds of foes in Night City. Regular enemies go down quickly if you're at the same level as them, while more elite foes can deal even more damage and take a little bit more punishment, as senior gameplay designer Powell Kapala described to VG247. Nevertheless, they'll still react to your damage, whether it's feeling pain, stumbling, or outright falling. With regards to boss fights, Kapala simply said that, "I think it would be best if players see it for themselves. However, I can assure you that we took the necessary steps not to have them feel like bullet sponges as well."
Yeah, there is nothing more frustrating. If anybody in here has played a game that is a bullet sponge game like Destiny or The Division, you're like, I've probably hit this guy 1,000 times, and he's not even halfway down his health. It's a very frustrating experience. I love they're tackling this right out of the gate, especially with how they've addressed even boss fights.
I hope these boss fights are really fun. I don't know if it's just because I've been playing a ton of games lately, but I feel like now I have higher expectations for boss fights, or if I can figure out the mechanic quickly enough, then I'm just oh, well, this is just rinse and repeat for maybe a full 5 minutes, and then I've won this boss fight, which kind of takes some of the fun out of it. So I hope that they found a way to, make it really dynamic. It seems like maybe you're going to have to, use your melee weapons, or maybe your guns, or maybe some of your abilities to be able to actually defeat a boss, versus just having a bullet spongy enemy with predictable movements.
100%. And it's amazing that we have about several more topics to cover regarding these details. We're going to carry them over into tomorrow's episode, but every time we talk about this game, we learn about the layers that are underneath this game. It is just, I think, continuing the hype and being so thankful that we are now officially less than a month away from Cyberpunk 2077 being released and getting to create our own V and have our own experience in Night City. So make sure to tune in tomorrow's episode, because we'll be jumping through the final details that they have regarding Cyberpunk 2077, as well as going to be talking about
Fall Guys, and how Mediatonic would like to know which Fall Guys levels you love and which ones you hate. Someone in the chat says tail tag. You can let them know. I'm dropping the survey link. Fall Guys tweeted it out. They tweeted it out, I think about 3 days ago, so they're already looking at some of the results, but I think you can still submit. I submitted. I said Perfect Match was my favorite level, but if you want to tell them that, like, hey, I don't want tail tag, I don't want, fall ball, please add more fun levels, they want to hear, what those are.
I love that feature. I love they're attacking the development of this game from community feedback. How often have we asked more developers to do that? This is a wonderful note for them. So definitely answer that survey if you play some Fall Guys.
Do. And for my drink, I'm drinking yerba mate, which I'm surprised no one guessed. And it's not technically tea. It's not technically tea leaves. It's like a different plant. So I didn't want to agree to that hint without being too much of a giveaway. But I thought I was vague but specific enough.
That is awesome. Good. And as Kai's been keeping count, chat 17.5, hosts 16. We're closing in on it, Kaisa. We're closing in.
We're closing in. If you have anything that you want to suggest, you can send them over to the mailbag. If it's developers you want us to interview, topics you want us to cover, or suggestions you have for the show, or maybe segments that you'd like to see us do.
Thank you so much, everyone, for stopping by for this hour of Daily Gaming News, for all the comments, the views, the likes, the follows, the resubs, the subs. Thank you all so much. We can't do this without you. Thank you for being here and supporting us as we continue to deliver all the juicy news going on in the gaming industry.
Thank you so much for joining us. We run reruns after the show. We also post VODs on YouTube. If you're watching a rerun, we are live from 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific every single weekday.
And if you guys want to hang out with me later, in about 45 minutes to an hour, I'm going to be playing some Star Wars Squadrons, jumping back in, getting some dogfights going in. So if you want to come hang with me on my stream, hi, there's my comment there. Follow me there and join me for some space battles.
Go follow Marrone, and I think I'll be streaming around maybe 7 to 8 p.m. I'm going to be playing more Blair Witch. I also believe tonight is when AOC is playing Among Us.
Oh, yeah, tune into that.
Twitch. So I might have 0 viewers. If you all go watch AOC, I honestly won't blame you.
Awesome. We will not hold it against you. So for October 20th, 2020 of this Daily Gaming News Hour, I am Marrone.
I am Kaisa. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll catch you tomorrow.
Catch you next time, everybody.